July 5th, 1943, Cherkasskoye, Russia. 11th Panzer Division has been given the task of breaking through the Russian lines so that a crossing can be secured of the Psel River. Blocking them are Russian units from the 19th Guards Rifle Regiment and the 611th Antitank Regiment. Cherkasskoye is the linchpin for the defense and must be held at all costs. We are dug in to the west. In the village of Cherkasskoye, battlefield can be roughly divided into 4 parts. Front line containing mines, barbed wire, trenches and bunkers. North village containing 3 objectives. South village containing 1 objective. And West village containing the last objective. Important note here, those markers on the western map edge designating where our reinforcements would be arriving from. We have these guns both front in the concrete bunkers and back in trenches and dugouts, with overlapping lines of fire covering most of the approaches. However, the wheat fields north and south would provide good concealment to the Germans on their approach. Soviet force consists of approximately company strength of infantry reinforced by AT element and mixed platoon of tank and tank destroyers. There are 2 things to note. We are very light in leadership, only having 2 lieutenants and 2 second lieutenants. More importantly, we are supposed to get reinforcements halfway through the battle, and so tank platoon and some infantry will only become available at an undetermined time in the battle. While Germans have 2 infantry companies led by 2 captains and roughly an armor company with smoke, off-map artillery and air support. They have more than enough troops and armor to overpower us. We must take out as many tanks as possible and stall them on their approach. Above all else, we must not let them into our rear. Due to the above, we must reinforce our front line, especially in the southern sector, in order to slow Germans down as much as we can while we await our reinforcements. Losses are expected and we rely on being able to cause as many casualties as possible, as fast as possible, to stall the assault long enough for our reinforcements to arrive. We open up turn 1 with the Germans having gone first and already advanced towards our positions. First thing to note that while the infantry has advanced, the panzers are still amassing at the initial positions. Second thing is that our heavy machine gun in the central front line bunker has been suppressed. And some of our ZIS guns have opportunity fired, pinning a few of the Germans. We open up our defensive fire with some ineffectual shots. There are 2 exceptions, a forward light machine gun team who takes out a fire team in the south, and a ZIS 5 gun in the center of Cherkasskoye village who pins a section. On our turn, this 2 gun, under the command of Lieutenant Banov, takes out a half truck. Light machine gun section in the northern bunker eliminates a fire team from the lead element of the German advance in its sector. And the trench nearby pins the remaining men in place a moment later. In the south, Lieutenant Chikan gives a good spot on the advancing Germans, who also eliminate a fire team while pinning the survivors. To spice things up, we mortar our own positions. Due to a misclick, thankfully they miss. Another half truck is taken out by our AT in a southern bunker. We continue to put pressure on the remainder of German forces. We must bolster the front line in order to blunt the initial German push. To that effect, we strip our rear defenses and move elements of the village defense both north and south. We will receive reinforcements later on in the battle, and they will have to do as our reserves at that stage. We take a blow in the German defensive fire phase, when our central bunker loses a heavy machine gun team there. Thankfully, that is the only loss. During our advance phase, I realized that southern bunker cannot contain any more men, and the reinforcements I've sent there need to be redirected. Turn 2 opens up with Germans finally pushing their tanks forward. We see an immobilized Panzer IV in the south and a destroyed tank up north. Our forces pour lead towards the enemy, pinning a number of units and immobilizing a Panzer III. And destroying Marder III up north. Southern heavy machine gun keeps taking its toll on the advance by taking out another fire team. And our AT rifle section pins and eliminates a fire team of Panzer Grenadiers, gaining a commendation for excellent marksmanship. Ziz 2 in the southern bunker takes out another Panzer III. Our men move up to the front lines, both north and south. One fire team dashes in the open to reinforce central bunker and gets cut down by German light machine gun fire. Guards section makes it for the trench, but before they can jump in, half the men are cut down by more light machine gun fire. I make a mistake here, as I overstuck that trench, and one fire team would be removed from the game. Germans really don't like our southern bunker, and most of their tanks fire at it, chipping the paint a little. The rest of the fire caused a few pins, but no casualties. Turn 3 opens up with Germans pushing forward, preparing to assault our positions, while the panzers provide covering fire. Our northern bunker loses a fire team in that. However, this 5-gun speaks and removes another Marder III from existence, leaving a sole Marder tank destroyer left in support of northern advance. This 5-gun in a village center takes out a whole section of Germans attempting to push the center. and mortars reduce German assault force in the south by a fire team. As we come to a part of turn 3, we see that Germans simply didn't have enough men to assault our northern trench, and instead consolidated with their pinned comrades. Our rifle fire team in the northern bunker spots that and immediately pins their equivalent. While the ZIS guns erase the last martyr from the battle, dealing a huge blow to the German push in the north. Lieutenant Banov single-handedly eliminates an entire section of assault engineers. If he survives this, I personally will recommend him for a commendation. Our elite platoon takes out a fire team of Germans amassing to assault their comrades up the line. And ZIS 2, in the northern village, scores its first kill by taking out Panzer IV. Mortars thin the assaulting German force by an entire section. And our heavy machine gun also takes out a full section worth of advancing Germans. While our anti-tank guns under command of Lieutenant Chikan immobilizes another Panzer IV. Turn 3 is turning out to be the best one of the entire game so far. Not only did we eliminate a sizable amount of German men and armor, but our reinforcements finally arrive. They promptly move to take up fire positions in the southern sector, while a sole Su-76M moves up to reinforce our northern line. In our assault phase, we storm the building with a sole German officer, and while we take him down, he manages to wipe out the entire Guards fire team. Mutual annihilation. Up north, seeing the opportunity of only one German officer unpinned and able to defend, our platoon surges forward and overruns German position, eliminating them to a man. We have been extremely lucky so far, and surely this is not going to last. Turn 4 opens up with our platoon in the southern front trench being reduced to only a section and a half who are pinned, while platoon who assaulted into the open from the northern trench only lost the fire team in the assault itself and did not sustain any casualties from the fire. Our elite Guards light machine gun fire team opens up on the German platoon and eliminates an entire section worth of men. And northern bunker anti-tank gun takes out yet another Panzer. T-34 eliminates an earlier immobilized Panzer. And southern mortar scores a direct hit on a German-occupied building, killing the fire team. As we come to the Soviet side of the turn, we survey the carnage left by the German assault. Both our platoons on the southern front line have been assaulted and annihilated, with the Germans now redirecting to exploit the breach. We pour everything we got onto the advance. Lieutenant Banov eliminates an officer to his immediate south. A T-gun in the northern village sector takes out previously immobilized tank. And northern mortar lands a direct hit on our recently overrun position, annihilating Germans within and leaving their officer stranded. T-34 in the village square fires in support of our northern defenses and takes out a fire team. While our fire team, now left in the open, takes out their equivalent in the trench that was recently occupied by their comrades. Turn 5 sees Germans pushing south hard. Fortunately for us, their supporting fire is ineffective due to the tanks having poor line of sight through the wheat fields. Our defensive fire is ineffective for the most part, until our mortar lands a direct hit on a platoon stuck in a barbed wire, removing a fire team and pinning another. We start our part of turn 5 by suppressing a section up north. The second Lieutenant Tereshkov's men take out a fire team. And this 2-gun next to them does the same while pinning another fire team in place. Southern bunker heavy machine gun takes out a section that was getting ready to assault it next turn, and this gun pins the other one in place. We further eliminate a panzer hiding in the forest. And reposition T-34 from the village square to prevent the fall of the southern bunker. German defensive fire pins a fire team up north and fails to take out T-34 that just arrived in support of the bunker. Wheatfield, again, providing line-of-sight cover from opponent's tanks. Lieutenant Chikan takes heavy machine gun fire team, assaulting and eliminating pinned combat engineer section. Not only is it a freebie, but it also removes extremely dangerous assaulter that would have been able to take apart our bunker without too many issues. Turn 6 starts with a bug. Looks like our heavy machine gun team might have been eliminated? Unfortunately, the game glitched out and created 2 Lieutenant Checkens. We sustain no other casualties during the German turn and move on to our defensive fire phase, whereby our mortars take out another fire team that came in to reinforce a stranded officer, leaving him stranded yet again. We attempt to take out German armor, but you can see us having a similar issue with the wheat field, adding a +3 cover modifier to every shot, making hits difficult. Our infantry has no such issues against the German in the open, and wipes out the last vestiges of the southern bunker assault. At this stage, it should be pretty obvious that we have stalled German advance. Their infantry north are barely holding on, exhausted and unable to take the front line. In the south, the act of taking front line was extremely costly for both sides. But I'm not the one advancing, and with an exhausted and absolutely anemic German armor, I do not see them making big inroads. And so, we start our turn, with Lieutenant Badov's AT gun costing Germans another panzer, leaving my opponent with an immobilized tank and AA half-track, putting a stop to any notions of these assaulting our positions. And here goes that half-track. We move our Lieutenant Chechen clones into the bunker. I should not be using them until the end of the game. Nothing much can happen in the opponent's defensive phase now. And nothing does. As we move on to turn 7, whereby our opponent reorganizes in the south and tries to push in the north, squandering his men. In a defensive fire phase, our tank destroyer finally scores a first kill of the battle by eliminating a pinned fire team. Mortars destroy pinned section down south. And our south bunker AT gun, surely spurred by the clones, hits immobilized panzer, horse and crew to bail out. And so I am now considering countercharge and assault with tanks on remaining German positions, which we are starting to actualize on our turn by first eliminating the sole surviving officer in the north, and then last pin German fire team. Finally, we move up all of our tanks and try to overrun the trench, driving the fire team under our tracks. Game goes on for 2 more turns, with results as you might expect, with one exception. Moving up tanks like that was a huge mistake. We should have parked a few hexes to the south and slowly eroded the remaining strength. As the thing stood, tanks are extremely vulnerable in an assault, and this really highlights it well. One tank is immobilized, 2 tanks annihilated, in a space of 1 assault, with only an officer loss for my opponent. Hard lessons learned, but that definitely opened my eyes to the possibilities for round 3 of the tournament. Watch this space. So, what went well, and what could we have done better this game? I feel that turn 3 was quite lucky for me. We managed to carve out a huge chunk out of the enemy there, and in reality, this is probably where the attack would have faltered and a retreat and reorg would have taken place for the Germans. And this being a game, of course, we continued. Bolstering front lines have worked fantastic, especially after reinforcements have arrived. Yes, our southern front line got annihilated to a man, but that had a very high cost for the Germans. Coupled with inability of them to exploit the gap quickly, we managed to reposition and thin out already plundering assault. I have to say that while I simply do not have enough experiential evidence yet, a reinforcing front line like that seems to be a high-risk, high-reward situation, and I would definitely keep doing that as long as I have reserves to plug the gap if it fails. As for the tanks, extremely deadly to infantry, medium to close distance, but extremely vulnerable in the assault, and I would definitely not repeat the same mistake again. But what about Germans and my opponent? While Germans have not had the best of luck this game, the dice could have been made to work with the appropriate application of force and maneuver. Their armor is the strongest force multiplier for the Germans, and was completely anemic for the whole game, moving up to a position where it can provide a subpar supporting fire and staying put while in plain view of all our AT guns. We have tried to always pick out the lowest hanging fruit, with no modifiers or +1 or 2, while Germans spread their fire without targeting AT first. The issue with the opponent's latter assault was not that they have lost too many men taking the southern front line, but the lack of coordination. They were not able to exploit the gap quickly enough with supporting infantry completely out of position, getting stuck trying to go through the barbed wire and failing to coordinate with the armor, allowing our troops to thin their ranks even further. When they did advance, I do not remember seeing a single smoke being used moving up in the open. Go and watch my video from the German side here to get better understanding of how to coordinate an attack in this scenario. And tell me if I just got extremely lucky, or if this was skill, down in the comments below. Round 3 is coming before the end of the year, and the Pacific DLC release streams are now available to watch, so go and check them out right now. And I'll see you there.